Peace. Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. We want to welcome all of our viewers to this special conversation with Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. I guess you could say that this is a follow-up to a conversation that we had last week, which came after our annual Saviours Day observance. And because of the positive reaction, very positive reaction that we got to that uh, interview or conversation, we felt that it would be a good idea to follow up this Sunday, which is normally our fourth Sunday address, with a continuation of some of the topics and areas of discussion that we gave attention to that day. Thank you again, Brother Imam, for joining us.
Praise be to Allah. I'm happy to be here with you.
Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak as well.
Wa alaikum salam and Ramadan Mubarak.
So, in our last conversation, the previous Sunday, one of the things that we kind of touched on briefly, and we didn't have the time to go into it more, I had asked you about the artist Kendrick Lamar's performance, the Super Bowl performance, and you said that you were very complimentary of his talent and his skill, but you saw that there was one issue that was concerning, and it was the issue of coded language. If you can, could you go into a little bit more detail in terms of what you mean by that and what is troubling about that kind of idea, or what you find troubling in it?
Yes. We first greet the listening audience and pray to God that they are enjoying and will enjoy blessed month of fasting. And we salute the faithful worldwide and pray God's protection and favor upon the believing people, and in this month that they are strengthened for the purpose that God has designed them for, and all humanity. And we pray also for the strengthening of leaders in serving the best interests of society and their people. God in the Quran, he reveals that there's some good in secrecy and secret associations and meetings. But he said most of it, God says most of it is burdensome and troublesome. And this is speaking to characteristics belonging to secret orders in society, in human society. And sometimes the secret communication, or as I've said before, coded. I said coded, but more clearly secretive, belonging to the nature of esoterics. Only initiated persons know the meanings. And it can be for the promotion of good, to protect from forces that want to weaken or destroy the good efforts. And in those cases, it's acceptable and understandable Um, but generally speaking, uh, it's burdensome, it's troublesome, and it opens to misinterpretation and misunderstanding. And it suggests also that there is sanction for elitism, uh, responsibility for society to advance itself is left to the secret associations of educated and informed or learned people who have been initiated in that responsibility and that language. So the majority of people looking at the performance would not know the meaning. The majority of the people would not know the meaning, and therefore would be left out of the discussion. And God says in the Quran that most of the people don't know. Most of the people are not informed. But also, He says that His communication is truth and it is also clarity. So there is an obligation on the part of persons who want to support the proper kind of progress for human society and human beings in society to accept responsibility to speak clearly. And there are references in scriptural readings that suggest that one of the characteristics of liberation or movement for freedom for human beings to exercise the purpose for which God created them, the opening of sealed knowledge or sealed books, the opening of sealed books. And so I don't know what is necessarily the motivation of Kendrick Lamar. I don't know who his teachers are. I don't know all of what he intends. But I want to believe that his intentions are good and he wants to open access to that which has been hidden, that has oppressed human beings. And but I think that we have experienced in our community, that is the Muslim American or Muslim African American community, in the troubles that are caused by secretive or coded language. And there was a process that we had to go through for that language to be interpreted properly and shown for what its purpose was and what its aim was. But nevertheless, that process was not absolutely necessary. God permitted it. But there's a reminder in our holy book that we have the obligation to speak in clear language, not in ambiguous language, not in language that can be misinterpreted to oppress, that it is our obligation to make ourselves understood. So, that opportunity to speak to the whole life of the people in the United States of America and around the world is an opportunity to speak clearly.
Yes, sir. Just a quick, I guess, correction on my part. I mentioned that the previous interview that this is a follow-up to was conducted this past Sunday. That's incorrect. It was conducted on a Wednesday. And it was the Saviours Day address that the Imam gave that was done on a Sunday. And you can find both of them at EAM Speaks on YouTube and Facebook. One of the things that is in the news, and this is something that we've discussed quite at some length, that you've been vocal about, the circumstances of the Palestinian determination, their struggle for just treatment in society. And there was something that was released, an AI model of, or an artificial intelligence created video of the plan that President Trump put forth of making Gaza a resort, or some kind of resort town, waterfront resort town. And it got some attention in the news and so forth. What do you make of, first of all, have you seen it? Are you aware of it?
Yes, I saw it.
I'd like to get your thoughts on it, and in particular, if you can, the use of AI for this sort of purpose.
Yes. Um, yeah, what I saw was not surprising to me, given what we know of Mr. Trump and his instincts, his thinking um, that reflects the status of irresponsible leadership that is emerging in the world, or has emerged in the world. Um, I've said many things, and those things I believe have been consistent over the many months that I have been specifically addressing the issue of the just struggle of the Palestinian people. The video is just a further degree of disrespect to their dignity and the dignity of their struggle. I don't know what else to say other than there's no surprise in it. It's the reflection of supremacist arrogance that is consistently Donald Trump's way of communicating and thinking. And I see, along with it, the hand of conspirators to manipulate the power of the office of the presidency of the United States to further their untoward agenda in the world. I see that as well. The use of artificial intelligence, technological advances are a part of progress for human civilization. And we have been warned by the philosophers, political philosophers and cultural philosophers, to guard against movements and direction for the thinking of man that masks itself as movements for freedom, but really invite to oppress moral sensitivities and contribute to decay in human society. So artificial intelligence, I'm not happy or comfortable with that term. I don't like that term. It's human intelligence. And when we have the courage to accept, to contain, and to discipline our thinking, then what we call artificial intelligence will come in line with supporting progress of moral conscience in the world. So that's the responsibility of man. And it's a test in the character of mankind right now. And also, more specifically, it's a test in the leadership of mankind. We have the strength, God has given us the strength to discipline ourselves according to his purpose. And this is the reason why it's important for us to have voice in the world, to remind mankind and to be an example of the proper ways to address these weighty concerns. I believe that artificial intelligence is language. It's not just scientific technology or something. It's language. And we who are conscious have the responsibility and also the capacity to reform language. So that intelligence that they're calling artificial, bring it back into its proper human uses, and it will be, as it should be, a tool in the hand of human life that God permits for our progress.
Yes, sir. There have been, you mentioned the decay in society, and the present conditions that we're living under, we're seeing the rise of a certain type of leadership, and many analogies have been drawn between it and the types of fascist or authoritarian leadership that was prominent in Europe in the earlier part of the 20th century, in Germany and Italy and so forth, in Spain. But in looking at those societies and how those fascist or authoritarian regimes came to power, they were usually preceded, it seems to me, my reading of the history, is that there was a loss of confidence in the present or the previous forms of government, its institutions, to solve critical issues that the population was facing. And perhaps in an act of desperation, the populations turned to these authoritarian regimes. Do you think that that is something that is a valid concern today? If not, do you think that there's a difference between the support that this type of leadership is receiving in the world now as opposed to then?
Human life is human life. And this is the role of guidance to strengthen human life, to position it properly for the type of progress and growth and development that God intends, that He intended. We review history for what it can inform us, give us by way of information and education, but we review it also with the help of or the lens of guidance. So we see parallels between World War II, aggressive behavior on the part of governments in Europe and a way of thinking to advance uh, ideas that want to create special areas of access to the world, the resources of the world, um, a particular kind of thinking and mind. And it occurred, as you mentioned, in Italy and Spain, Germany, uh, almost at the same time. And associated with it is prodigious kind of abuse of human um dignity, abuse of the life of the common human person, and uh, a support and an argument or a line of reasoning that wanted to establish that all of what exists belongs to a particular group. All of what exists in the earth and beyond belongs to a particular group. And the common life of the people is to support the ambitions and um, values of that particular group. And so the common life of the people are minions, cannon fodder, worthless, except in the interest to support that particular group's movements and aspirations for world domination and control of the Earth's resources. So I believe that there's a direct parallel between that kind of thinking and what we are witnessing presently in many places on the earth. But, you know, we're Americans, so we are looking at our circumstances and seeing that how we're being represented in our high offices is very similar. Has there been disenchantment with our leadership in America? And do the American people look unfavorably upon their leaders? There's always differences and concerns that the American people express toward their leaders. And the American society is such that it opens itself to the expression, the free and public expression of these concerns, so as to debate them and come to the best conclusion about what should be supported to advance the good life of the people, and not just in the interest of the establishment or strength of the United States of America, but also using the establishment and strength of the United States of America to appeal to the best instincts of man on the earth. That's in the spirit of the American people, and it has been in the spirit of the American leadership. What is different and I think would be completely intolerable on the part of the American people, is what we witnessed that I'm referring to, that are parallels from World War II era, um, the mass slaughter of people, um, millions of people, um, initiated and supported by those leaders. We don't see that in the United States. And so there's a clear difference. American people would not, on any level, even those that are supporters of the Trump administration and him as president, they would not accept that kind of bloodshed in the United States of America. So there is a moral check that exists in the conscience, in the spirit of the American people. And we're seeing that presently. Early in this man's administration, we're seeing that manifest. It's not as apparent because he has a strategy supported by manipulators and conspirators. He has a strategy to dominate the airwaves and the media. But there is a growing sentiment among all of the ethnic groups in America that a mistake has been made. And it will have expression. It will have expression. But we have, in the character of the American people, we have some very outstanding moral thinkers. And they are represented in political philosophy, in social philosophy, in spiritual concerns, in the religious leadership, and they will find each other. And not just expressions of principles to check out of control executive power, but also influences that will rise in, I think, the arteries of the economy of the United States that will check this kind of extreme behavior or unacceptable leadership emphasis in the structures of the society itself. There's a remedy. And it begins with the free expression of moral sensitivities. And we are leaders. That is our community. We are leaders for America in that particular interest. And we are not just ordinary. We have a special inclination. And God has, I believe, He has preserved us for these moments.
Yes, sir. On that point, I wanted to ask if you could perhaps go into a little bit more detail about what specifically the Muslim African American tradition offers by way of checking these corruptions in American leadership. Because you mentioned others, that there are other moral thinkers, and that the cooperation amongst them will enter into the arteries of the society and provide a healing. What specifically does the Muslim African American tradition contribute to this process?
Well, in a word, the Quran. That's what we offer. The Quran, the holy book of Muslims, every subject that it takes up has also a direct connection to scripture that preceded it. And the Quran takes up the arguments for human life in its purpose and what is the proper relationship between human life and its creator. And every ancient discussion on this central matter, how human life has been constructed in the context of the earth and its resources, how man is to govern himself, what should be the relationship between human communities, how structures for support in the life of man are drawn from the study of man's existence. And in particular, and most importantly, what is and should be the relationship between God and man. How does God want us to understand our relationship with him? How has he ordered us to live in society? So the Quran takes up these matters and it confirms what was sent down as communication to human beings that preceded it. So there is a relationship between Muslims and communities of faith preceding the revelation of the Quran. And there is, it's not a secondary concern. It's a primary concern, these relationships. So this suggests a kinship, a trusting existence supported by bonds of faith and common values. But those principles that govern these relationships and speak to the progress of man have to have representation and clear representation in times of disorder and confusion. The Quran says that it is clear communication, and associated with it is a people or model people that are given the responsibility to exhibit, demonstrate that clear communication. So the African American people were brought here as slaves. And the nature of American slavery was not just use of labor, but it was to crush the ego, the natural supports for human expression and claim to human identity. It was to crush that in its subjects, in its slave subjects. That as a interest and design got the attention of God. And a people that recognized that there was a God and that God was a just God called out for a relationship with that God. And in calling out for a relationship with that God, it wasn't just a movement to restore a connection to their identity as humans that had been crushed by the society, there was also a promise that that community of people would come into an understanding of responsibility on how to advance society and how to reconstruct society if its important foundations had been disrupted or destroyed. So this is a people that were separated from their human identity and then restored to it, and then given also knowledge and a spirit to advance mankind. So in this time, this kind of sensitivity represents essential leadership. And so because we are the community associated with the Quran as guidance and Muhammad the Prophet as a model human leader, then in the conditions or circumstances of America and the world as they are constituted presently, we are a vital force and a necessary mind to restore attention to really what is necessary for endurance of human existence, and that is attention to the original purity of human life and the original dignity in which God has established potential for human progress. That is our special contribution. And in this time, it is the most essential concern for the salvation of man.
Yes, sir. For those that might be are more familiar with our particular community and its history, they and members of our community as well. How do we have some internal struggles that we're dealing with in terms of uh, the vitality of our institutions, with the seeming lack of or the damage that's been done to our institutions. How can we communicate what you just said in terms of our particular role to the next generation of Muslim Americans that are perhaps in their early teens or younger, or even a little older, maybe college age, who may have been very young when Imam W.D. Muhammad passed away? How do we uh, communicate this idea, this principle, this charge that we have to the next generation uh, in light of the fact that we have some serious institutional challenges?
Yes, well, human life is struggle. And God says in our holy book that the struggle is not insurmountable, that the difficulty is not insurmountable. It says that for every struggle, there is an answer, there is a relief. And we have to accept that social troubles and decline is in the nature of human society. We all suffer sicknesses from time to time, which, if you extend those sicknesses to the whole life of society, there are times when the whole life of society is troubled. But the trouble itself opens up opportunities for remedy and it reveals access to information and knowledge that was always present, but latent in our understanding. And so it reveals connection to new areas of knowledge. So in our decline, which clearly we're experiencing, we have to sensitize our young people to not be burdened by a spirit of decline, but see in the decline opportunities for a new kind of progress, and overcome that. And as a consequence of overcoming it, strengthening against that particular type of decline. So the decline that we're experiencing is a kind of immaturity, refusal to accept leadership, and what happens as a result of that immaturity. It is said that the highest development for human communities is to produce leadership. And
Brother Imam, you cut out for just a second. Could you repeat that, please?
yeah, it is said that the highest expression for human life in community is to display its leadership. Its leadership is a reflection of its aspirations, its hopes, its difficulties, and the knowledge that has been derived from its troubles and its hurts and its difficulties, the knowledge that has been derived from it, and also its triumphs, its advances. All of the knowledge that has been derived from that is expressed in the leadership. So if a people don't want to acknowledge and support leadership, it's a reflection of immaturity. And this represents the kind of decline that we have had. But it's not, as I said, it's not insurmountable. The sensitivity in people, it will be restored because of the connection to obedience to God. So we have, for example, in our ritual prayer, something that indicates that there is decline. We go from a position of standing to a position of bowing. And this can be interpreted as symbolically reflecting the nature of struggle in society, and that because of the difficulty in society and human life in society, there will be periods of decline. But if the period of decline is still connected to an obedience to God, then that dignity will be restored upon the insistence to obey the way of God. And what I mean by the way of God is not some fleeting spirituality, although spiritual life is a very important component. What I'm speaking of is very practical and pragmatic in the sense of connection to what we know that God approves: decency, honesty, openness, integrity, and in every expression of our life. So we know that God sees us and hears us, and that we can't have a hidden agenda that is immoral and then claim a moral agenda publicly. So he sees and hears that. And when we can purify and correct those areas that we know we have fallen short, then that is the cause for us to stand again. And so we have this as a ritual, a reminder in our life. And we have this in our philosophy of application of knowledge. We have that, it's there as well. So we just say to our young people, obey this very wonderful and beautiful tradition of knowledge. Research it and obey its conclusions. And we'll come out of a period of difficulty into a period of relief. And it's incumbent upon them to accept that responsibility. And it's also equally necessary for our leadership to communicate that as a responsibility to them so that they will know clearly that they have to shoulder this and not to succumb, that this is normal and accepted and anticipated part of the existence of human life. And difficulty is not defeat. Decline is not defeat. Decline is a component in the pathways to progress.
But sort of stepping back further in terms of our looking at our community, obviously as part of the American society, the same principles apply to the society at large.
Yes, yes, we're of a faith that believes in one system of existence, that everything is dependent and codependent upon the laws in which God has deposited human life, and that human life itself is a reflection of that system, both within its existence and within its human existence and within the existence of human life in relationship with everything that exists around it. All of it belongs to one system. So whatever is existing as patterns in one human community, that's not any different from what exists as patterns in another human community at different times. So I was asked recently about this alignment of the 7 planets. And there's always an alignment. It's just that the alignment became visible to us. But the planets are always in alignment. God says in his holy book that these heavenly bodies, they follow courses that are exact and precise. So they're always aligned. But human life, it's not always in focus for us. It's not always visible for us. But once we recognize that what exists in the scheme of things exists also in us, then we become aligned to the proper purposes. And what may look like a decline, we'll recognize that it's within the system of progress. And we become awakened to that, or we become sensitive to that, then we can derive from those difficulties the necessary information and knowledge to put us in the proper spirit for progress.
Well, we want to thank you again, Brother Imam. These are always very special interactions, and we greatly appreciate the time that you take to be with us. And we want to, we've gotten a lot of increased attention lately, so I don't think this announcement will be redundant, but this particular presentation that we have this morning is part of our ongoing, or the Imam's ongoing Islamic Studies class that he teaches every Sunday. It's free to join. It's preceded by a presentation that he gives, and then following that, we have some discussion. But the first Sunday of every month, there's a public facing portion of our presentation. Normally in this time slot, the imam would be speaking, but we decided to kind of change the format and conduct a follow-up to our previous conversation. So if you're interested in participating in the Islamic Studies class, you can go to eamspeaks.com. There's a link at the top, and you can click it and register there. We appreciate your participation. If you haven't seen the first part of this conversation, you can go to eamspeaks.com or EAM Speaks on YouTube, Facebook, and other social media platforms to view it there. Again, Brother Imam, thank you. We are always appreciative of what you have to share with us, and we look forward to being able to do this again sometime soon.
Thank you.
As a final announcement to our viewing audience, upcoming, we have our Ramadan sessions in the tradition of Imam W.D. Muhammad, March 21st and the 22nd in Washington, D.C. There'll be announcements coming up soon. You can follow us on our social media platforms to stay informed. Thank you. Peace.